Who's the black private dick that's a sex machine to all the chicks? You're damn right. Who is the man that would risk his neck for his brother, man? Can you dig it? Who's the cat that won't cop out when there's danger all about? Right on. You see, this cat chef is a bad mother. Shut your mouth. What I'm talking about, Chef? He's a complicated man, but no one understands him but his woman. John Jack.
All right, today is day 58 of Operation Epic Fury. They still tell us 13 Americans are dead, only nearly 400 wounded. And the Strait of Hormuz is still closed and under the control of Iran. In my opinion, which it should be, to be honest. But we have 3 aircraft carriers now in the theater. The Ford is in located somewhere around the Red Sea. Man, that ship has been out to sea and deployed for over 300 and let's say 14 days now, 320 days or something like that. I know being on an aircraft carrier, and I'll tell you a little story here in a minute, but being on an aircraft carrier for that long is very, let's say, demoralizing, except for those old salty chiefs that love to be at sea. But this is the new Navy. We have guys, we have people in there. Like I said, they had supposed to have been a laundry fire that damn near sank the ship. 600 sailors was out of a sleeping area. Had toilets jammed. They were stuffing the toilets with shirts and things to just go home. Just go home. But it entered through the Suez Canal because the Houthis own the southern exit. The Lincoln is in the Arabian Sea, and the George H.W. Bush, which just arrived after sailing 6,000 miles around the continent of Africa, because the United States Navy cannot transit the Red Sea. Think about that. I want you guys to think about that just for a minute, because we're told that we have the strongest Navy in the world, but we can't sail through the Red Sea. We have the strongest Navy in the world. We're being ran away from our normal transit by the Houthis. The ceasefire there was supposed to lead to a deal. Of course, it died because, here it is, Trump, he says he pulled Witkoff and Kushner from the Pakistan talks, but, I think it's more than that, because Iran had already said that they were not going to talk to Kushner and Witkoff. So here it is. Why keep sending them? Why keep sending your handlers? Why keep sending the Mossad and Israeli handlers to talk to Iran when they say we're not talking to those guys? So there was no second round. There is no deal. There's no date. And last night, while all of that was happening, we had this guy named Cole Allen, or Cole somebody, that just walked into the Washington Hilton with a shotgun, a handgun, and knives, charged a Secret Service checkpoint, opened fire at the White House Correspondents' Dinner while the President of the United States was sitting at the head table, and all of his cabinet members, everybody was in the building. I wonder, did they have a designated survivor for that night? Because I know they have a designated survivor for the State of the Union. Did they have a designated survivor last night? I really want to check into that, because everyone was there. Everyone was there last night. So I wonder who the designated survivor was. So every other network, since last night, tonight, they're going to spend 2 hours on the Correspondents' Dinner, where we're not. We're going to spend 2 minutes on it, because we know what's confirmed. We know what isn't. And we're not going to let a single shooting, as serious as it seemed to be, I guess a lot of people are calling it a false flag. A lot of people are saying it was staged because of the war, the tremendous low ratings. It seems like every time Trump gets low ratings, there's a a threat on the president's life. Right? It seems like, hey, I'm just calling it the way I see it. Sad that we have to commit to violence, but was it violence? Was it coordinated violence, or was it a false flag violence? So we're not going to pull your attention away from a war that has been running for 58 days now, that has killed 13 verified Americans, and that has shut down 20% of the world's oil supply, and that the people running it cannot tell you the truth about. Okay, we are not getting the truth about this war. You have been getting the truth, as I know it, as what I can verify here on the show. But that's why we're here, and that is the Radical Republicans live show, uncensored, unfiltered, unedited, unscripted, unapologetic. And course, I am Chief Jarome Bell. So let's just get into it. And first, I want to say thank you all to all my lovelies out there. We got Carolyn, Susan, Joe, as always, out there, and K9 Girl. Pure Blood is supposed to be in. She actually texted and asked, was I having a show? I'm like, yeah, I'm having a show. And then she's late. I should text her and be like, you're late. Why are you late, girl? Show's on. It's showtime, right? Hey, but I'm gonna tell you something nobody else on the air can tell you tonight. Nobody. And I want you to listen closely. Okay. Nobody, no podcast, no news outlet, no one that you'll hear on the radio, TV, podcast. Nobody but me can tell you what I'm about to tell you right now. So I hope you're listening, because this is the truth. This is the story I was going to tell you about. Because I'm going to explain to you why we are where we are in this war. Okay, so I was on the USS Carl Vinson, the CVN 70 with helicopter submarine, anti-submarine squadron 4, HS 4 helicopter squadron based in North Island, San Diego, California, from 86 to 89. I was in the squadron. I did 2 Western Pacific cruises on the Carl Vinson between 86 and 89. And so on my second deployment, it was actually just the third deployment of the Carl Vinson, August 12th, 1986 to early 1987. That was the third deployment. And my fourth deployment is what I'm going to talk about. The ship's fourth deployment, my second deployment, June 15th, 1988 through around December 16th, 1988, because we were only out right at 6 months. I think we were one day beyond 6 months, because we had to sit out, because we were based and stationed in Alameda, California. So when we came in, we had to come under the Golden Gate Bridge. So we had to transit underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and the winds were high and the seas were high, so we couldn't get under the Golden Gate Bridge. So we had to anchor out an extra day. I remember that. So we're out for 61, what is it? 6 months and 1 day, 181 days instead of 180 days. But what we did out there is what you're hearing about now, right? We were 82 days on station in the North Arabian Sea. And this was the first time, this was the real time, right? I mean, this is when we actually controlled the ship. When we actually controlled the waterways. So 82 days on station in the North Arabian Sea, directly supporting Operation Earnest Will. You guys can look it up. Directly supporting Operation Earnest Will, the escort of U.S. flagged tankers in the Arabian Gulf. Some of you may remember that. Some of you may not have been born then. But that's when our operation was to escort U.S. flagged tankers in the Arabian Gulf, pretty much Kuwait, right? And this is not talking point. That's a service record entry. I come with the receipts, or I don't come at all. And that's what I tell people to do. Come with some receipts, man, or don't come at all at me. A lot of people come at me without their receipts, and then I just have to give them the Lion King. Susan understands what that is, the Lion King. So a lot of things that I talk about, when we're talking about Iran, we're talking about this oil, this embargo that's, movement of the Strait of Hormuz, the transiting of ships, the escorting of ships. You notice we haven't escorted one ship, right? And I'm going to tell you why, because we were the last one in that time to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz. So when I tell you what's wrong with this picture tonight, I need you to understand that I'm not reading off somebody else's script. I'm not going off what I was heard. I'm not going off just some random chat GPT pull or whatever you want to call it. I'm comparing what I live to what I'm watching, to what I'm seeing with my own eyes, to how I am watching. I am literally watching the gaslighting of the American people from the Department of Defense, the Department of what they want to call it, war now. I knew that was going to be an issue as soon as they changed the name. And the President of the United States and Pete Hegseth and CENTCOM. I'm watching, and what I'm watching just does not add up to us controlling anything out there. We can't sit in the Red Sea. We don't have control of the Red Sea. We don't have control of the Strait of Hormuz. We don't have control of the Persian Gulf. Yeah, we have ships out there that are interdicting way away from Iran into in international waters, which is pretty much piracy. You can look it up. We went over that last week. I'm not going to backtrack on that this week. So, what did we actually do? I guess people are asking. So, what did you do? An Operation Earnest Will. And that was literally from 87 to 88, 82 days on station in the Arabian Gulf. So, Operation Earnest Will ran from July 24th, 1987 through September 26th, 1988. Kuwait had asked President Ronald Reagan to protect their oil tankers from the Iranian attacks. Okay, Kuwait, they were transiting the oil. They needed protection. And so the solution was real simple then. It was simple, and it was hard. I will definitely say that. It was hard because this was 24 hours. I remember sitting on the flight deck in my helicopter on alert 5. I mean, we're out there just in case some people are attacked, just in case we lose planes. We have plane guard and and our helicopter. Oh, we sitting on alert 5 just in case. Engines running and rotors turning, and from alert 5, alert 15, alert 30. But we're up there. We're in general quarters pretty much the whole time. But it was hard to reflag Kuwaiti tankers as American vessels. That's what we did, right? That's what we did. We took their tankers and put our flags on them. So, as a warning to anybody, this is now an American ship. I don't know if that shit was legal at the time. That's what we did, and we put U.S. Navy warships physically. I mean, literally physically. And I think they may have some video of this somewhere. Physically alongside them through the Strait of Hormuz, inside the Gulf. This is what we did. This is when we really escorted them, our ships. I mean, and you have to think of the ships, right? So the first 5 ships that actually sailed through the strait, it was July 23rd, 1987. There was the USS Crommelin, the USS Fox, the USS Warden, the USS Kidd, and the USS Clackering. Those were the first 5 ships. And the commanding officer under this was Rear Admiral Harold Burnson. He was the commander of the what we call the Middle East Force back then. There was no CENTCOM or anything like that. Okay, this was the commander of the Middle East Force. And you have to understand, those weren't ships just sitting 600 miles away launching aircraft like we're doing now. Okay, like we're doing now, right? And we were inside the Persian Gulf. Okay, of course the aircraft carrier one, we were in the Arabian Sea, right outside, right there launching aircraft, not 600 miles away. But our destroyers and ships, they were physically alongside the tankers through the strait. We ran that shit. We dared Iran to attack a ship, attack one of our ships, right? So that's what controlling the Strait of Hormuz looked like. That's what it should look like. That's not what it looks like today. So that's how I know when I say you guys are being gaslit and people say I have TDS and people say I'm crazy and I don't know what I'm talking about because Hexet said this and Trump said this. And now I lived it. I know what it looks like personally. I know what it looks like. I was there. I know what controlling the Strait of Hormuz looked like, felt like, smelt like. And we just kept rotating ships through the USS Samuel B. Roberts. You know, I was the frigate FFG 50. It actually struck a mine because they did mine, but we had minesweepers then going through too. But the Samuel B. Roberts did strike a mine April 14th, 1988. It nearly sank, but you know what? They kept going. They kept going. And then I think the most tragic thing, this was, and I believe this is what truly ended that. Okay, this is what ended, you know, I guess this ceasefire. I mean, because 6 weeks later, after this incident, Iran agreed to a ceasefire with Iraq. You guys have to understand too. We were giving Iraq weapons. We were giving Iraq chemical weapons to use against Iran. So when people talk about Iran has been attacking us for 47 years, no, really they haven't. We've been fucking with Iran since 1953. And we've been mad ever since they took back over in 1979 because we operated a coup that took out their duly elected, democratically elected leader, Mossadegh, out 1953, handed it over to the Shah. And then there was a revolution where the Ayatollah and the people that's in control of Iran now took over 1979, and we've been mad ever since. We've been mad ever since. So, you know, I know, you know, it sounds funny, the guy that did 27 years in the Navy, right? You know, when I tell you that we're not controlling the waters because I've been there and people look at me crazy. But what happened? The USS Vincennes that was on station as well. The USS Vincennes was inside the strait doing the job, escorting, when someone in their air traffic control, they misidentified Iran Air Flight 655 as a hostile aircraft, and they shot it down. 290 people died. 66 of them were children. I can only sympathize with whoever called that, whoever pushed that button, because I know they've probably been living a life of hell ever since. But we called it an accident, and Iran never accepted that. I mean, can you blame them, right? Can you blame them? Iran never accepted it, just like, you know, some people, and like myself, still don't accept, even though we've covered it up, the sinking or the attempted sinking of the USS Liberty, the attack by Israel on the USS Liberty. But 6 weeks after that incident, Iran agreed to a ceasefire. So you really do the math on what that moment meant. Okay, you understand that. I mean, you put yourself in that position. You put yourself with Iran, I guess. You figure, hey man, they're still mad, right? I mean, then look at what we're doing now. The USS Vandergrift, I remember this distinctly. That was escorted the very last tanker to Kuwait on September 26, 1988, and that was the completed mission on that. But that we had 127 escort missions, 188 reflagged Kuwaiti tankers, protected more than 30 warships in the region simultaneously at peak. We got the job done. That was the real Navy. And the Carl Vinson, my ship, my carrier. We provided the carrier air wing support from the North Arabian Sea. And that's the picture. That's the before picture. I was in it. I was there. So when they give you this picture, when they give you the USS Gerald Ford and the USS Abraham Lincoln, they're not inside the Persian Gulf. They're not inside the Strait. They're not in the Arabian Sea. The Abraham Lincoln was moved over 454 miles away from the Iranian coastline, like 594 nautical miles. Say it's like 1,100 kilometers. And so if you're flying air ops out of there, you're flying air ops. I mean, this whole, the whole dynamic change, right? It's a whole dynamic change because when you're launching from that far away, the logistics and everything that go along with attacks and trying to control a strait, which we do not. It's like 450 nautical miles away, and it's actually 594 nautical miles away. And the F-18 Hornets unrefueled combat radius is about 450 miles. So we can't even launch an F-18 to go on a mission without refueling it once there and probably on the way back. So you have these carriers that are already parked beyond unrefueled range of its own aircraft before we even launch a single plane. In 1988, our ships were inside the Gulf, inside the Strait, doing real work. And today, our carriers, we can't even get close enough for our planes to reach the target without a gas station in the sky. And of course, that gas station is the KC-135 tankers. But without the tanker, the F-18 never reaches Iran. Without the tanker, the entire campaign stops. And we're short on tankers. I mean, and here's the thing. Here's what Iran, see, I keep telling, the Persians are very, very smart people. I understand that they're the smartest people in the world with the highest IQs. I also understand that all of their leadership have doctorate degrees. All of them have doctorate degrees. Okay, these are very, very intelligent. And before this battle even started, Iran knew that before the first shot was even fired. Iran knew, okay, we're going to keep the carriers away. They're going to have to fly sorties. We're going to go after their tankers, which they did. They destroyed 6 of them on the tarmac. I think another one was shot down. So we're limited on tankers that can do the missions. And that was pretty much the ballgame. Then they went to the bases, right? All right. So we had seven KC-135 aircraft was taken out. Unfortunately, one killed 6 crewmen in Iraq. One was critically damaged. 5 was destroyed on the ground at Prince Sultan Air Base in a single missile strike. So And when the Air Force needed to replace them, they had to go to the boneyard. These are the boneyard, Davis Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona. This is where we send airplanes to die, basically, right? At the end of life, we send them these planes to Davis Monthan Air Force Base to sit there and pretty much just rust away. I mean, yeah, we have them preserved just in case we have to use them, and that's pretty much what they had to do. They pulled a 60-year-old aircraft out of the desert and flew them to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma to return them to service. That's what we had to do. This is what Iran made us do. Let that land on you for a minute, right? Trump says we're winning the war, their air force is decimated, but yet we're having to go to the boneyard and pull 60-year-old aircraft out of preservation to put them back into service. I mean, we lost tankers fast enough in the opening weeks of the conflict that the Air Force had to go to the boneyard. Do you guys get that? They had to go and get aircraft that had preservatives in them. We go there to pull parts off of planes because we don't have them in the system anymore, right? To fight a 2026 war. That's what we had to do. That's what our Air Force had to do. And we're winning. I mean, in my mind, that's not a superpower projecting strength. That's a supply chain crisis hiding behind a press release, basically. This was in the first weeks. We've only been at this war for 58 days. 58 days past the constitutional limit because it was never authorized by Congress. But think about that. 58 days. And supposedly the superpower projecting strength around the world, our United States Air Force had to go to the burial site for KC-135 tankers and pull tankers out of the boneyard, out of the graveyard. See, this is the stuff that they're not telling you. This is the stuff they won't tell you. This is the stuff that people like me know, but I mean, a lot of people are scared to say it because they don't want to seem unpatriotic or anti-American, and that's not the case at all. I'm just not for gaslighting the people. I'm not for lying to the people, making them think that, hey, everything's okay when it's not. Yeah, I know they say, oh, well, you're going to let the enemy know. Don't you think the enemy already knows because that was the plan? Don't you guys understand that? I hate when people say, oh, we can't tell them what we're doing because the enemy is going to find out. Damn it, they already know that in game plan. They know. That's why they went for the tankers. That's why they shot missiles at the carriers to get them out of the Gulf. So now what happens? They have to fly hundreds, thousands of miles to attack Iran. And guess what? Iran's ready. They're ready. They're ready. I mean, you got the George Bush that had to go around the horn. When you guys talk about around the horn, we mean around Africa. So this is the third carrier, right? It just arrived in theater. I guess on CENTCOM confirmed it on April 23rd. So we got 3 carriers in the Middle East for the first time since 2003, since Operation Iraqi Freedom. But let me tell you how the Bush got there. And this is a first. This is a first. This is the U.S. Navy showing superpower projecting strength right here, right? I mean, we're supposed to come right through the Red Sea, dare the Houthis to shoot anything at us and just destroy them. That's what we're supposed to do. But we've had that fight with the Houthis, and you guys, we lost that fight. So now the USS George H.W. Bush left Norfolk on March 31st, I believe it was March 31st, and it didn't come through the Strait of Gibraltar. Okay, you guys can look at a map. Pull up a big world map, okay? And you guys look at this, okay? We're supposed to come through the Strait of Gibraltar, through the Suez Canal. Suez Canal. That's the normal route, right? Strait of Gibraltar, through the Med. You know, make a couple of stops. You know, in Greece or Italy or somewhere like that on the way through, right? Get supplies, come through, depend on how important it was. But I'm sure they probably didn't have a port call schedule because it was of importance, right? They had to hurry up and get on station. So it didn't sail through the strait. We didn't go through the Med. We didn't go through the Suez Canal, normal route, right? We had to sail south. We had to go past the equator. We had to go around the Cape of Good Hope. That's the southern tip of Africa. You're damn near in freaking Australia. Right? Or whatever. We had to go through the southern tip of Africa through the Mozambique Channel. That's 6,000. Think of the money spent. Think of the logistics. Think of the time. That's 6,000 miles out of the way. 6,000 miles. Why aren't you hearing about this? Why aren't nobody else is telling you this stuff? These people with these big shows, big talk shows, they get paid all this money, these podcasts, and I'm the only one telling you the truth. I'm the only one telling you the truth. So why is that? Like I said, because the Houthis, right? Because the Houthis, the non-state. If you don't know who the Houthis are, they're the non-state Iranian proxy in Yemen, right? They're the protectors of the Red Sea in Yemen. We lost the war against Yemen. You can talk about it all you want. Talk about, oh yeah, well, no, we got a ceasefire with Yemen. And little bitty Houthis in Yemen. You know how small Yemen is, and they forced us to a ceasefire because they were shooting rockets at our ships. Because, and I'll get to this in a minute, because big ships are obsolete. And they've honestly just made the southern Red Sea too dangerous for an American aircraft carrier to transit. Too dangerous. There you got the Bab el Mandeb Strait that has been closed to aircraft carriers since December 2023. Think about that. Think about that, right? The world's Navy superpower that we project, that we keep telling everybody we have the best, we have the strongest. We can't even go through the damn Red Sea. It's closed. It's closed. Since December 2023. Closed. Done. Can't go through. And you think, and the Ford got into the Red Sea through the northern part, through the Suez Canal, because the south entrance is Houthi territory. In 1988, we were inside the Gulf. Our ships were inside the Gulf. We were escorting tankers with an American flag, Kuwaiti tankers with American flags, through the Strait of Hormuz in 1988. In 2026, today our carriers can't even use the southern Red Sea route. We can't enter the strait. And the third carrier just sailed 6,000 miles out of the way around an entire continent to avoid a proxy force armed with Iranian drones and missiles. And we're projecting superpower strength? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, that's very expensive. A very complicated machine being asked to do a job from a distance. It was never designed to operate at. A carrier was never designed to operate there against the enemy that spent 40 years specifically studying how to make that machine fail. That's what Iran spent 47 years doing, 40 years, learning how to studying us to how to make us fail, to make that aircraft carrier obsolete, to make that aircraft carrier non-effective, to make our ships non-effective. And like I say, nobody else on any show tonight, you can ask them, ask Bannon. People watch the Bannon show, right? People watch Bannon. Everybody watches Bannon. Ask Bannon about Ernest Will. Ask Bannon, was he on the Carl Vinson? Ask Bannon, was he on one of those ships that was transiting the Gulf as they talk about the Navy strength? We had Navy strength. I was part of Navy strength. The dates are there. The service record is on the table. The receipts are on the table. And that's why we're telling you this tonight here on the Radical Republicans live show, because nobody else is going to say that. Because you know why? Nobody else can. Nobody else can. Take a break. Okay. Coming back.
Still dealing with uncomfortable socks?
Yes.
Upgrade to Norlander alpaca socks.
Alpaca socks. That was my sponsor. So, hey, Jackie, glad you made it in Pure Blood. I'm glad you made it in too. Here we go. Jackie's on the road tonight. There you go. Yeah, so dropping the receipts tonight you can take with you. Take the receipts with you. Talk about it. Tell the people who's talking the shit about superpower strength. No, we were a superpower strong. You know, and I want to walk you through the chain like this, I guess. You know, because I feel that's exactly what it is. It's a chain, right? It's a chain, and Iran didn't need to defeat the United States military. This is what people don't understand. We didn't win in Iraq. We didn't win in Afghanistan, unfortunately. We've never really won a war if you go back and look at it. We didn't win in Vietnam. We only won World War II thanks to the Russians. But they didn't need to defeat the United States military. They just had to needed to find the weakest link, and they found it. They found that weak link, and they just pulled it. They just pulled it. So let me break it down to you on this fence. Link one. The carrier can't get close enough. The U.S. I don't care. You got 3 carriers out there, man. You're just burning jet fuel and burning freaking nuclear, power. The USS Gerald Ford and Abraham Lincoln are not inside the Persian Gulf. They can't come in the Persian Gulf. They are not inside the Strait. Satellite. I mean, look at the satellite imagery. And it confirmed both carrier strike groups pulled back from forward positions. They had to. And I believe, and they say that Abraham Lincoln wasn't struck. Like the first week, Iran came out and said that it hit the Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln pulled back to over 1,100 kilometers away. The USS Gerald Ford had a major fire. They said was from a laundry. I don't see that fire breaking out like that in a laundry room because they have fire suppression. They could have dogged the doors unless there was a big gaping hole somewhere and they was getting oxygen. Other than that, the laundry room fire would have been contained. It should have been contained. It took them, they said 30 hours to put out the fire. 30 hours. 30 hours on a ship, state-of-the-art ship. This was the newest, right? The Gerald Ford is the newest ship, state-of-the-art ship. Probably state-of-the-art fire suppression system, state-of-the-art dog-down doors, Circle Z doors that would have just put out the fire, suffocated it, and kept it contained. Took 30 hours to put it out. I'm still not buying that one. And I think, and here's what I think, okay, because they made everything classified, okay, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm probably usually right. But think about it. They've made everything classified. Deaths of soldiers. They probably can't use internet right now. They can't make, because on these new carriers, man, they got internet, satellite. They can do FaceTime and all that. They probably cut out all of that. They made everything classified. Probably had to sign a page 13 entry that you can't talk about what went on, right? Because we're not getting the full truth. We're not getting it. Let me tell you that 100%. I know that for a fact that we're not getting the whole truth. And I can't tell you what I know because it's classified. But I'm just saying, I'm not buying that story just because I served on a carrier. I spent a lot of time in the laundry. A friend of mine that I actually went to high school with. It was kind of funny. It was kind of actually cool too because he was a grade lower than me, so I graduated before him a grade or two, or whatever. Right? We grew up in the same neighborhood, so I found out he was on the laundry. I saw him in chow hall one day. I'm like, man, what are you doing here? Man, I work in N7 or L7 or whatever it was in the laundry. I'm like, oh, sweet, cool. He said, yeah, man, bring me your clothes. I'll do your laundry for you. So if you don't know, how your laundry gets done on the ship, on the carrier, each division or each squadron, wherever you sleep, you have these bags and you put all your clothes in there together. Right? Yeah, everybody put their clothes in there together. So what I used to do, I used to take my bag of clothes, my little ditty bag of clothes, and I used to give it to Sean. His name was Sean. And I used to give it to Sean, and Sean used to wash my clothes and press them and, dry them and press them and, all that, man, have them looking sweet, and I give him $20. $20. I don't have to wash my clothes with anybody. They're all pressed and creased and everything, It's cool with the hookup. So I spent a lot of time down in the laundry division where the laundry was talking to Sean. And it's not that big. So link two on this chain. Because we have to fly the distances that we have to fly to, especially since our bases are uninhabitable, we can't use any base in the region. All of them, Bahrain, we had the UAE, we had Saudi Arabia, all of them. The closest base that we could use was in Djibouti, Africa. It was in Djibouti. Okay, so we didn't have a base close enough. The carriers have to stay so far away. So what do we have to use? We have to use tankers, and the tanker was the most important aircraft in the theater. Okay, so because the carrier can't get close enough, every single mission had to require aircraft refueling. Not sometimes, every time. Every time. Once we had to evacuate those bases, every single time. The KC-135 straddle tanker carries up to 200,000 pounds of transferable fuel. It's a big boy. 200,000 pounds, that's a big boy. So it loiters on refueling tracks over Western Iraq, Saudi Arabia, or the international airspace, probably 2 or 3 of them at one time, right? So without it, the F-18 never reaches the target. Without it, I tell you, the entire campaign stops. What has happened? What has happened since we lost those 6 KC-135 straddle tankers? Pretty much the missions are dead. We haven't flown a lot of sorties. We've been shooting missiles. We've been having to and they'll tell you this, because their Air Force is gone. They don't have an Air Force, so we don't need to fly Air Force. But think about it, we have to fly bombers, right? Because we're dropping the big bombs. We're dropping because we're pretty much out of missiles. And they're not going to tell you that. We're pretty much out of missiles. So they have to fly the B-2 bombers all the way from Oklahoma, wherever they come from, right? 18-hour missions, drop, refuel, fly back home. Because they can't go. I mean, they were going to go to Diego Garcia and found out, hey, Iran said, hey, they think we might can reach y'all. So they weren't putting them big puppies down there, right? Those are long missions, even though they sleep because they're on, autopilot, and they just really, the computer flies them, But even CENTCOM called area refueling one of the campaign's key enablers. That's military speak for if you kill the tanker, you kill the mission. Iran killed the tanker. Without the KC-135, a sustained bombing campaign against a country the size of Iran is logistically impossible. This is why we call it the ceasefire. So you're not going to get this detail from any other talk show, any other lamestream media, nothing. You're not going to get this part. But, because they think you're stupid. So link 3 is the fighter. I mean, this tanker, it's a big, slow, lumbering thing. So it has to stay out in international. It can't come in the airspace, can't come too close. But with the tanker, they got shot down in Iraq because now, the Iraqis and, and the insurgency in Iraq was like, hey, y'all got to go. Do you guys know that we got run out of Iraq? Do you guys know that? Did you guys know that we actually had to leave Iraq as well? See, they're not telling you that. Because when that tanker got shot down, they say it crashed. That tanker was shot down. And so that tanker now, when the tanker flies, what does it need? It needs fighter escorts now. It needs fighter escorts. So, I mean, you got that KC-135 flying that refueling track near Western Iraq. It can't defend itself. And that's what happened. It can't run. It can't evade. It's in combat zones. Tankers even have to turn off their transponders to avoid detection, which creates its own collision danger with other aircraft that may be flying in the area. So which means fighters have to escort the tankers just to keep them alive. So now you have fighters escorting tankers keeping strike aircraft alive to reach the targets, strike aircraft operating at the edge of their range in one of the most heavily defended airspaces on Earth, whether the Department of Defense and the Secretary of War and Trump, and whether they want to tell you or not, that's the most heavily defended spaces on Earth, and Iran still had capability to shoot down planes. You see, we lost 39, including drones. We've lost 39 aircraft. So every layer of that chain is a target. And what did Iran do? Iran spent 40 years studying exactly which link to cut first. Link 4. It had already started cutting the chain. It went straight for the tankers. Think about the mission. It went straight for the tankers. 7, I know 6 were destroyed, 7 took major hits, but 7 KC-135 aircraft affected in quick succession. Unfortunately, 1 crashed, killing a crew of 6 in Iraq. 1 critically damaged, won't be back. 5 destroyed on the ground, Prince Sultan Air Base. And unfortunately, those 6 names on Major John Clinner, Captain Ariana Savino, Tech Sergeant Ashley Pruitt, Captain Seth Koval, Captain Curtis Angst, Tech Sergeant Tyler Simmons, they died on that chain. They died because without tankers, nothing else works, and Iran knows it, and they volunteered for the mission. And a retired General Mike Minahan, he was the former commanding officer at the Air Mobility Command. He said even 1 tanker loss could ground advanced stealth fighter squadrons. 1. See, and there's something that I found too. This is link 4A. Here's something that you never heard. We're going to put this in the receipts they were hiding box, right? These are the receipts that they're hiding. This is what they don't want you to know. This is what they didn't want you to know. The F5 story. Right? Joe, you may have heard about this, right? Joe may have heard about this. Susan says, perfect time to bring out the hero pilot who was rescued in Iran after climbing the mountain bleeding out. Yeah, but you still haven't heard that name, right? You still haven't heard that name. Why is that? Why is that, Susan? Why haven't you heard that name? Classified. Classified. But he survived. He's not dead. We have names of KIA. Why don't we have names of the alive, of someone that survived, right? Shouldn't we know that guy? He should be having a movie deal right now, right? They say, oh, we haven't mentioned the name because the investigations, operation is still going on. That's bullshit. I'll be the first to tell you. Bullshit. So link 4A. So in this story dropped, I think like 2 days ago. And this one, if you're a Trump supporter, let's just say this, right? And of course, I don't want the president of the United States to fail. That's like wanting the pilot of your plane to crash or something. But I don't. But once you see it, you just can't unsee the shit, right? And knowing what I know and things that I just broke down to you, and the gaslighting that I know that I see that I have receipts for, maybe other people don't. I may mention some things and people think I'm crazy, but I actually got the receipts for shit that I say. And this is one. And I hope this makes your blood boil, right? Because you were told the Air Force, we shot down all their planes. They don't have an Air Force. They don't have a Navy. All their ships, 159 ships are at the bottom of the sea. They've lost the war and they can't do anything. And but we can't sail ships through the strait. How is it that we can sail ships through the strait in 1988 when they had Navy, they had all this stuff, right? But we can't sail ships through the strait now, and they don't have a Navy, is what we're told. But while Hegseth was standing at the Pentagon podium telling you this lie, Iran's Air Force was wiped out and the United States owned the skies. We owned the skies over Iran. Let me tell you what really happened. And NBC confirmed this. The American Enterprise Institute confirmed it. 3 U.S. officials confirmed it. 2 congressional aides confirmed it. what I'm about to tell you. So while we were being gaslit, we were being lied to by Pete Hegseth, and I think Hegseth has to go. I mean, Hegseth has to be fired. No, because I guess as a president, you're only as good as the people around you. You're only as good as the information that you get from the people around you. Even though you're supposed to be the smartest guy in the world, you figure. I have to say, I don't think President Trump is getting all the details. But while we were owning Iran skies, an Iranian F-5. You guys have to understand this. If you don't know airplanes, Joe may. If you don't know aircraft, the F-5, F-5. We're at F what? 35s, F-A-35s, right? An Iranian F-5. It's almost comical. This plane was designed in 1959. 1959. It flew in low. You know what? It dropped unguided bombs on Camp Buehring in Kuwait. That was the bombs that it wasn't even missiles in Kuwait. These were bombs from an F-5 bearing in Kuwait, and it walked right through our Patriot missile defense system. A damn F-5 that were designed in 1959, flew in low enough, walked right through our Patriot defense missile systems, dropped unguided bombs on the camp in Kuwait, Camp Buehring in Kuwait. And I believe that's where 6 people died. I mean, this was the first time in that I can remember. First time in enemy fixed wing. Matter of fact, I believe it was the first time ever an enemy fixed wing aircraft struck an American military base in years. Maybe not in ever, but I know in years, decades. And the American Enterprise Institute's damage assessment, Iran hit more than 100 targets across 11 U.S. bases in at least 7 countries in the Middle East. This is a country they told you lost the war. This is a country they said didn't have the capability to do this. This is a country that was supposed to be some ragheads living in mountains. They didn't know what was going on. This is a country that we were supposed to just bomb for a couple of hours, and they were going to give in and give up and, to all our demands, right? Total damage over $5 billion. Warehouses, aircraft hangars, command headquarters, satellite communications infrastructure, runways, advanced radar systems, and dozens of aircraft. And the White House, they told private satellite companies to black out imagery of those bases. They told them to black it out. Planet Labs said so in writing in an April 4th email to their customers, right? Because people, they go on the satellites, they want to see. And they in an email, April 4th, to their customers, a 14-day blackout of those areas were extended because the White House told them to. What are we hiding? What is this super world power hiding? Why are we hiding? And you know what a Republican congressional aide told NBC when they asked what damage assessments Congress had received? Here's what they said. No one knows anything, and it's not for the lack of asking. We have been asking for weeks and not getting specifics, even as the Pentagon is asking for a record high budget. So, and that's your own side. Freaking Republicans. That's your own side, MAGA. That's your own side saying you're being lied to, right? That's it. You're being lied to. A Republican aide said that. A Republican congressional aide said that. So you want to talk about MAGA? You want to talk about, what type of TDS I have, and what type of, I've turned into a Democrat and all that. I'm not lying to you. It's your own side lying to you. I just recognize it. Right? I just see it. I was just one of the first to recognize it. One of the first to bring it out. One of the first to tell you that you were being gaslit. I mean, because Pete Hegseth said on March 30th, there is almost, I guess that was the key word, almost nothing they can militarily do about it. Yes, they can shoot some missiles, but we shoot them down. Right? That's what Hegseth said. We just shoot them down. A 1959 design jet just called him a liar. A 1959 jet called Pete Hegseth a liar and proved otherwise. But we still got one more thing on the link. We got link 5. And if you're not really into aviation, especially militarily, you have to understand, and you can Google it, you can Claude it, Chat GPT, whatever, right? Probably have most of it. What actually goes into preserving an aircraft and putting it into the boneyard? That means it's retired. That means we're not using it anymore. That means we're putting you out to pasture. So what happens is we take all of the parts, and think about how expensive this is going to be to pull a jet from the boneyard, because we take out what we call all the guts, right? We take out all the guts. We take out everything that plane doesn't need to fly there. We leave what it needs to actually fly there safe. And then when it gets there, we pull all that out and we bring it back home. We strip that aircraft of aircraft parts inside. We gut it. It has the landing gear. Sometimes we take that if we need it. And then it's filled with preservative to keep it from just rusting out, right? So all the gasoline is out. All the hydraulic fluid is out, right? All the oil is out. And it's filled full of preservative just to keep it from rotting in the desert. No parts, everything's out of it. All the electronics, everything is out. So what's the Air Force response to the tanker losses? They began pulling stored KC-135s out of the boneyard, which means they have to put them together well enough to fly back to Tinker Air Force Base and put back into service. Do you know how expensive that is? Do you know how much money? Millions, hundreds of thousands at least, to put all those parts back together and take the oil. I mean, I would not want to be the guys having to do that. "58 days, let it land." 58 days, we lost tankers fast enough in the opening weeks of this conflict that the Air Force, the mighty, mighty Air Force, had to go to the boneyard to replace them. Can you guys imagine if we actually went to war, had to go to war with Russia or China? Literally. I honestly fear that. I honestly fear that if we had to go to war with China or Russia. I mean, we're pulling 60-year-old aircraft out of Arizona, out of the Arizona desert in 2026 to fight a war? To fight a war in 2026? Our superpower Air Force has to do that? I'm sorry, but that's not strength. Like I said, that's a supply line crisis. They're hiding behind press releases big time. Whew, man. I mean, I just think about it. You know, you put your mind to it. I mean, just like Jackie says, sound like a Black Sheet episode. I know, right? This is, I mean, the things that we're being told. What's up, Jamie? Nasty. And Jamie knows. Jamie knows what it take, right, Jamie? Taking a plane to the boneyard. We've had to do a couple of those. And having to do that and bring those planes back. You're being gaslit. Unfortunately, you're being lied to. So the George Bush, like I said, get your maps out. Get your world maps out. And you have to understand when we talk carrier battle groups, right? We're talking about battle groups. We have submarines. Subs can go pretty much anywhere, I guess. But as far as the escort ships for the carrier have escort ships, right? And with the carrier group, the George Bush, I believe we have the USS Donald Cook, the USS Mason, USS Ross, and then you have these supply ships. We have these USNS ships that actually supply, right? They have the food. They have a bunch of the supply stuff. These are USNS ships. The USNS Arctic is part of this group. So it just wasn't the Bush that had to sail around the African continent. It was all of the escort ships too. All of the escort ships. Around Cape Agulhas at the southern tip, north through the Mozambique Channel into the Indian Ocean. 6,000 miles of detour. 6,000 miles. 6,000 miles. Let me say that again. 6,000-mile detour. Because why? Because why? Because we don't control the Red Sea. Because we can't sail through the Red Sea. Because guess who? The Houthis run that. Who run that? Iran. Who runs the Strait of Hormuz? Iran. And we talk about, oh, we're in control. Where? Where besides the sky? Where? Because we're bombing everything, Israel and United States, because we can drop bombs on shit, right? Where else are we in control? And we're not even in control of that because Iran and pretty much decimated a lot of Israel. And Hezbollah is kicking some ass down there in what is it? Southern Beirut, or southern Lebanon, northern Israel, because they're trying to take over that area too. But we haven't been able to transfer the carrier through the Bab el Mandeb since 2023. We're a superpower. The most powerful Navy in human history cannot use. You guys have to get this, man. And that's why, I mean, it pisses me off when I see these people, they stand up there and, you know, and they rah this and rah that. I'm like, you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Hegseth is lying. Trump is lying. You don't know what you're talking about. We can't even use our primary transit route to the Middle East because the Houthi rebels are armed with Iranian drones and missiles, and we can't go? We can't do it? Really? Here's something else, the operational consequence nobody in Washington would tell you. The detour around Africa, guess what that happened? I mean, guess what they was able to do, right? Now, Trump would say Iran called for the ceasefire. No, the fuck they didn't. Let's just stop. Well, what you know, just what I'm telling you here, just understand, right? They said Iran called for the ceasefire. No, they did not. No, they didn't. Iran told you go screw yourself because we're not going to give up anything that you want because guess what? Guess what? We found out, oh, we don't have to because you can't beat us. And we dare you to drop a nuke. We dare you to drop a nuke on us because you can't beat us. This is what they're telling us. So make no mistake about it. Iran did not call for the ceasefire. The United States did. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we had to sell the George Bush and those ships 6,000 miles out of the way. We're running out of missiles. None of the bases are protected. They're destroyed. They're inhabitable. We have no people there. Maybe a couple of what they call skeleton crews, maybe just to keep the lights on, but I think they may even have to go. Iran has no Golden Dome protection missiles. I mean, not Iran, Israel. Israel has no protection missiles. This was mainly for Israel too, hopefully to get some more in. But guess what? We're not even making them fast enough. We're not even making them fast enough. See, but guess what though? The detour around Africa, because Iran is smart. They're like, hey, we'll take this ceasefire. Yeah, okay, they want a ceasefire? Sure. So we'll take, guess what? That gave Iran additional time to reposition its naval. And yes, they still have a navy. Don't let Trump and freaking this clown Hegseth tell you that they don't have an operation. Oh, a navy. Oh, I take that back. So this is what they said. And Caroline Levitt said this, right? Because someone asked him, well, I thought President Trump said that their navy, that their entire navy was destroyed. It had ships at the bottom of the sea. You know what she said? This is the spin. This is the gaslight. This is what they're saying now. Oh, President Trump said their operational navy. What? If they have boats out there that can blow up shit, that's a navy. So he said, no, they're traditional. They're traditional operation navy. Traditional operational navy. What? They never really had one. You guys blew up old ships. You guys were blowing up old ships. Iran had ships out there. I mean, you sank an Iranian ship with a submarine like a candy ass that was pulling out of a port of India on a peace mission thing. They didn't have nothing. They didn't have no weapons. They weren't at war. They were nowhere near Iran. And we sank them and we left them out there. We had survivors, which was in violation of the Geneva Convention. Our submarine torpedoed this ship, man. What? War crime. War crime. That's the type of shit that we were doing, that we've done. So we gave them time to reposition its navy, its missiles, its air defense, and yes, they still have all of the above. Stop believing these people. And assets before the Bush even got into range, before the Bush even made it into theater. And we had to telegraph our own deployment schedule because we were scared of the Red Sea. They were watching us the whole time. Okay. We know where you got to go, so we got this much time. Hegseth should be fired. Hegseth should be fired. Kane, everybody. I mean, shit, they're firing everybody anyway. What's the difference? Secretary of the Navy resigned or fired or whichever because he's like, I'm done. I don't care about it. This is crazy. So the Bush entered CENTCOM, I guess, on April 23rd in the theater, CENTCOM theater. We got 3 carriers. Hopefully the Ford is gonna go home. Hopefully the Ford, it's busted up, man. Them people, they're so demoralized. I'm hoping they're sending the Ford home. But guess what? It has to go around Africa, man. It has to go 6,000 miles around before it even get home. It can't transit the right way. It might can go through the Suez Canal, up north like it came, maybe. But we got 3 carriers operating now in theater for the first time, like I said, since 2003, enforcing some kind of blockade. The Bush is in the Indian Ocean somewhere. Lincoln is out in the Arabian Sea. We got the Ford in the Red Sea. Think about it. Think about it. Pull up your big maps. The USS Abraham Lincoln is in the Arabian Sea. The Bush is somewhere transiting in the Indian Ocean, and the Ford is in the northern Red Sea up there. In 1988, our ships were inside the Gulf. 1988. Today, our third carrier just sailed around an entire continent. Who controls those waterways? Who is control of that area? It's not us. It's not us. I know what control looks like. I was part of it. It's not us. And here's the dumb shit. Here's the dumb shit. The carrier is a big target now. It is. It's pretty much obsolete if we can't operate close enough to a region to where we can fly our jets there and come back to the carrier without refueling. It's just not logistically, economically feasible. And this is the same problem the battleship is going to have. And I get to that in a moment, but I mean, the debate is no longer academic. You guys have to understand that. The Ford class carriers, they cost $13 billion per hull, meaning $13 billion a ship, a carrier. Okay? It requires a strike group of destroyers for protection, submarines for protection, and other support vessels, frigates and fast boats and stuff. And even with all of that protection that it has, it still has been forced back 600 miles from the Iranian coast. Because why? Because of missiles, because of drones that cost a fraction of a percent of what the ship costs. So we can't risk getting it hit. See, and that's not a new problem. That's the battleship problem. That's the battleship problem. 1941, the battleship was the most feared platform on the earth. World War II. Until carrier aviation proved that the biggest ship in the room is just the biggest target in the room too. And we're talking about, the lesson of Pearl Harbor and Midway wasn't that battleships were bad. It was that a new weapons technology had rendered the entire doctrine pretty much obsolete overnight. And that's the same thing that's happening here. Drones, anti-ship missiles, and layered coastal defense have done the same thing to the aircraft carrier in contested littoral environments. So you have to understand the era, the era of the uncontested carrier dominance is over. That's why you don't see a bunch of countries building aircraft carriers anymore. China stopped. I mean, Pete Hegseth fired the Secretary John Phelan, a couple days ago? And you guys may not have got this story, may have got parts of it twisted, right? But partly because Phelan, which was Trump's dude, right? He was pushing the Trump-class battleship program for Trump. But Hegseth didn't want it. But Hegseth is not going to tell Trump this, but he fired Phelan, or I think Phelan may have just resigned, or whichever, right? Whichever way you want to call it. but it went directly against Hegseth's inclinations towards smaller, cheaper, unmanned vessels. That's sort of what Hegseth wants, but Trump wants battleships. Trump is stuck in this World War II era, right? You know? And this is all about him. This is all about his ego. This is all about Trump. And a lot of this is always all about Trump. It's sad to say it, but I mean, but when what's saying? If you know, you know, right? So on December 20th, 2025, President Trump stood, he was down in Mar-a-Lago and announced a new class of warships named after who? Himself. Normally, you don't get a ship named after you until you die, right? Till you die. But Trump, in his classic fashion, he named it after himself, the Trump-class battleship. The USS Defiant, BBG-1, 30 to 40,000 tons with rail guns and lasers, hypersonic missiles, nuclear cruise missiles, AI controlled, which will probably be a problem, plans for 2 ships, then 10, eventually 20 to 25, what he called the Golden Fleet, right? He said Trump called these ships unmistakable symbols of national power that would inspire fear in America's enemies all over the world. Are you serious? Are you serious? These countries have hypersonic missiles too. How much is this going to cost? How much is one ship going to cost? About $30 billion, $40 billion, something like that for one. Plans for 2 ships. It's going to have all this stuff on it. AI is going to have AI controlled, and and they say because of AI, those 160 girls got blown up in Iran because of AI controlled autonomous weaponry. So here's what the professional said about this. CSIS analyst and retired Marine Colonel Mark Kansian, he said the ship will never sail, and I don't see it sailing either. It would take years to design. He said it only costs $9 billion each. I believe it's probably more than that. And contravene the Navy's own concept of operations, which envisions distributed firepower. And he said a future administration will cancel it before the first ship hits the water. He's probably right. The defense analyst, Brian Clark, is strategically wrong. Yes. Yes. Fiscally wrong. Yes. And tactically wrong. Yes, yes, yes. It doesn't distribute, he says, our capacity in sensors, weapons, and command and control in a way that can counter the Chinese threat. Absolutely not at all. If China wanted to take Taiwan, who would agree with this? Then I tell you what let me tell you just what former Navy Captain Carl Schuster said. We no longer have the shipbuilding and maritime industrial infrastructure to do this quickly. Closed shipyards would need to be reactivated, new ones built, in a national scale recruitment and training program just launched. And on top of that, the DOD just ended the contract with the unions at the Navy shipyard in Norfolk. That's going to be a big thing. That just hit the wire earlier today. Pete Hegseth and the Department of Defense canceled the contracts with the unions at the Navy shipyard. Boy, this dude, they need to get rid of Hegseth fast, man. Imagine Navy shipyard, Norfolk Navy shipyard, where most of our ships are built and refurbished, right? Dry dock, fixed, repaired. And he canceled the contract with the unions. because they didn't want to guarantee the workers' safety. This is one of the big things I think the unions were saying. Well, their contract guaranteed the workers' safety. And Hegseth said no. Hegseth said no. Now, who believes, honestly? And you can put it in the chat. Who actually believes that we could win a war against China? Who actually believes that if China wanted to take Taiwan right now, we have 3 carriers over in the Middle East. If China wanted to take Taiwan right now, could we stop them? I know Jamie said text my text. Yeah, that's our boneyard. Yeah, I see your messages, Jamie. I got it. Yeah. Hold up. No, I don't have any guests tonight, Jamie. I don't. Yeah, I see the boneyard, man. He's in the picture. That's our C9 boneyard, man. It's just crazy. It's just out there. Unbelievable. Jamie had sent me a text and on some things. But so his punchline is, so you got to understand this. Trump's own Secretary of Defense sort of moved against the program by firing the Navy secretary who was pushing it for Trump. But Hegseth won't say that publicly. He won't say that Trump is wrong publicly because all of them stood behind him when Trump came up there and talked about it the other day. And you had Hegseth, and you had Kane, and you had Marco Rubio, and you had all these people up there right behind him. None of them said anything. They're a bunch of punks, man. They're not telling this dude because they're scared they're gonna get fired. They're scared he's gonna Candace Owen them or something, right? But nobody in that building will walk into the Oval Office and tell the president that his dream ship is a fantasy. Nobody's going to do that. None of them are going to do that. So they fired the man who was building Trump's dream ship, but nobody has the guts to tell the president why. Because here's the truth of it. Here's the truth. The answer to Iran's anti-ship missiles and drone swarms, Mr. President, this is what they should tell him, is not a 40,000-ton battleship with your name on it. Sorry, bro. You don't get your name on a battleship. You want to put your name on a drone? Maybe we'll put it on a drone. Maybe we'll put it on a hypersonic missile or something, right? Maybe we'll put it on a submarine next time or something, right? Because it's submarines, it's distributed unmanned systems, next generation stealth tankers, smaller, faster, harder to find, harder to kill. This is the future of war. The exact opposite of everything announced at Mar-a-Lago. And the other day, when he got up there after Phelan was fired, but that doesn't make for good TV at Mar-a-Lago press conference, though, does it? Guess not. I guess not. With people, I was talking to Pure Blood earlier, I think, and my little confidant Susan and whatever. Yeah. Way. Yeah. If you're talking about the shipyard, yeah. I'm waiting on that strike. I'm waiting on that big strike in Norfolk, man, at the shipyard. They canceled the contracts with the unions, bro. But I'm thinking after this show, I may take a break. I may take a break for a couple of weeks. Take a moment. Re-energize my batteries. See, I don't think people realize how much there's a gap in the trades, especially ship repair. Yeah, see, they don't understand. You're just not gonna find these people. You're not just gonna pull these people off the street and stick them in the shipyards or coming out of their apprenticeship school. Because guess what? Even coming out of their apprenticeship school, those are union jobs. Unfortunately, those are union jobs. They're not gonna work at the. They're not gonna go do that. They can take their talents and go overseas and work for a cruise line industry and make a whole hell of a lot more money building cruise line ships in another country. They wanted to. And I agree with you, Jackie. Many will just retire and take that retirement check. Many will. I agree. Norfolk is gonna become a shithole, man. You got the commies running the state. You got the commies trying to make it a 10-1 blue district state. But you're not just going to find these people off the street and just can put them in the shipyard. They got to go to training. They have so. It is crazy. Susan said, take a break, damn it. Yeah, I might just do that. I might just do that. So before we close out this show, though, we're going to hit this Federalist Paper segment. We're going to continue this series building from 1 and number 51. So every week on the show, we try to go back to the founders, not because it's academic, but because they predicted this, This isn't anything that they didn't say was going to happen. I mean, you had Madison, Hamilton, Jay. They all sat down and they built the intellectual architecture for a government that could actually survive. And they can survive exactly the kind of moment that we are in right now. A president making unilateral military decisions, a Congress that won't ask hard questions, a press that's more interested in the theater than the substance, an executive branch that's suppressing information the American people have a right to know about. I mean, they saw it all coming. They saw it coming. They wrote the operating manual for this. And we've actually spent probably 230 years systematically ignoring all of it. Just ignoring it. I mean, tonight, I guess I'll continue where I sort of left off at with Madison. The question Madison was wrestling with, and the question we have to actually we do have to wrestle with now, is this: how do you build a government that can act decisively in a crisis without concentrating so much power in one place that the crisis becomes permanent? And that's not a theoretical question tonight. That's the question of day 58. The authorized use of military force was confirmed by Congress after Operation Epic Fury launched. So they rubber stamped a war that was already in progress, right? So that's not a check on executive power. And that's a receipt for one that's already happened. They got the receipt. Oh, all right, so we bought it and we paid for it, so we got the receipt for it, right? So, and Madison warned us. Hamilton warned us. The Federalist Papers are not dusty documents on a shelf, to be honest. People don't read those. They are a warning that is 238 years overdue for a hearing. It's called the Constitution. We just have to live by and govern by the Constitution. That oath we took to the Constitution, not to a president, not to a Congress, not to, you know, the cabinet members. So tonight we're going to continue next week, hopefully, when I come back, if I take a break. But at least tonight I want you to sit with this. The founders designed a system where no single man could take this country to war alone. But yet we're watching what happens when that system fails. And the question is whether anybody in Washington has the courage to fix it. I don't think any of our representatives do, because if they did, they would have. So like I said, the talks are dead in Iran. The ceasefire is supposed to end tonight or last night or something shit. Nobody's going to Pakistan. Iran said, keep your boys. Don't even bother sending them if you're not going to work off of our 10-point framework. So here's basically what that means. We steal 13 million barrels of oil per day, still offline, nearly 2 months of closure. And this is countries around the world, we haven't really felt the brunt of it. We felt some higher gas prices, but we haven't really felt the brunt of what's happening overseas. You guys really need to start looking at what's happening in Asia, what's happening in these other countries right now, what's happening in Australia and these countries right now. They can't get this fuel and their prices. And you guys really need to look at that, because it's going to come here to America. Nearly 2 months of closure. And the experts are saying even if a deal was reached today, it would take months to claw back that supply that we haven't got. The IMF is warning that global growth takes a hit regardless of what happens now. So while Trump is closing, they already closed straight, even though Iran, they have ships coming through. It's not closed. It's not closed like that. Don't believe that. We don't even have enough ships to really do a blockade of Iran. Yeah, we're out in the international waters. We're not even, you guys understand, we're not even like interdicting ships close to Iran because we'll get blown up. We're way out in international waters when we're like boarding these ships. And that's sort of candy ass, to be honest, if you want to ask me. We have 3 carrier strike groups in the water with orders to stay combat ready. So they're just sitting there. So still, day 58, this war still has no exit ramp that anybody can see, I think, right? Because we're just waiting. And I just want to say this, and I'm going to say this again. Because in 1988, I was on the Carl Vinson. And for those people that know this, I know I got some buddies out there that know they were with me. Eddie, Kevin, Mike, Ron Young, Ron Nora, JD Davis. We were all out there together. And our battle group operated in the Persian Gulf, inside the Persian Gulf. The Cromlin, the Fox, the Kidd, the Clackering, the Samuel B. Roberts, those ships were physically along the tankers inside the strait. 127 escort missions that got the job done. We controlled the Strait of Hormuz. Today, the carrier cannot enter the strait. The fighters can't reach the target without multiple tanker passes. The tankers can't fly without fighter escorts. The Air Force is pulling 60-year-old jets out of the boneyard. The Bush had to sail around Africa. The Ford and the Lincoln were pushed back 600 miles. A 1959 jet bombed one of the bases and walked through the Patriot missile systems. And what does the White House do? They suppress satellite imagery and they tell you we've won Iran skies. Iran has lost. We've won it already. This is not, and it hurts. This is not a superpower projecting strength. This is a administration gaslighting you. It's very expensive, very complicated machine to do a job from a distance that it was never designed to operate at. And the enemy knows. The enemy knows. The enemy spent 40 years studying how to make it fail, and they've done it. I don't care what you say. We can bomb all we want. Take them back to the Stone Age. I guarantee that every Middle East country will feel that pain more than Iran does because they're going to shut it all down. And then the entire world will feel it. A war that didn't have to be fought. A war that our Congress didn't authorize. And the Houthis, the Houthis didn't sink a single carrier. They didn't need to. They didn't need to sink a carrier. And they really didn't want to. I'm sure if they wanted to, Iran has supersonic missiles. They have supersonics. They can hit the carriers where if they wanted to sink a carrier, they could, and there's not a damn thing that we can do about it. We don't have defense for for hypersonic missiles. We don't have any defense for hypersonic missiles. But they just had to make the cost unacceptable. Hey, baby. That's my grandbaby. Hey. Hey. Huh? Oh, hey. Grandpa be finished in a minute. My grandbaby. No. I mean, they just had to make the cost unacceptable. Iran didn't have to destroy our fleet. They just made it park outside the kill box. And this administration is giving you a gold fleet press release instead of the truth. Because I know what the picture looked like before. I know the before picture. I was in it. Like I said, nobody else on the air on the podcast tonight, tomorrow, next week can say that. And that's exactly why I'm telling you this. So you'll get it. I said that the White House shooting, that WHCD shooting last night, I'm going to give you confirmed facts. I'm going to give you one paragraph. That's all I can give you. If you want anything else, just tune in to another show. They're going to give you 2 hours, probably the next week, because they really want to get you off the Epstein list. They want to get you off the war. They want to get you off everything that's happening, everything that I'm telling you the truth. They want to get you away from that. So whether it was a false flag or not, I don't know. But last night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, a man named Cole Thomas Allen, 31, from Torrance, California, charged a Secret Service checkpoint at Washington Hilton with the gun. You guys already seen it. You guys already seen the pictures. You guys already know what's going on, whether you think it was a false flag, whether it's not. It's a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't make sense. I want to know a question. I want to know a few questions. Why did they take J.D. Vance off and secure J.D. Vance before President Trump? It took them an extra 14 seconds to evacuate Trump. They evacuated J.D. Vance first. What protocol is that? Whether you agree with Trump, like Trump or not, I'm still, you know, um, support the office of the presidency and the protocols of the presidency. Why didn't you evacuate President Trump first? Why was JD Vance evacuated first? That's what I want to know. That should be the big story on this. That should be the biggest story in this, because even Trump said, oh, the guy, I mean, I've been in that Hilton. I've been in that Hilton. The ballrooms were 2 levels below where this guy was at. He in no way had any way to get to the president. The doors were locked anyway, but he had no way of getting past and into the president. Even President Trump said he was a long way away. He wasn't where he couldn't get in, right? So why the big deal? Why the big deal? The guy was 2 levels above where the ballrooms were, and that's where they caught him at. That's where he was at. Yeah, was he there? Was he there to harm President Trump? But you can't really call this a presidential assassination attempt because the guy wasn't even inside the ballroom. That would have been okay. Okay, we'll call it an assassination attempt if we would have got off a shot at the president. The guy is 2 levels up. He had no way to get to the president. But the big story here, I want to know, why was JD Vance evacuated first? That's my question. All the other stuff, right? False flag, attempted presidential assassination. The guy worked with NASA. He was an engineer. He's this, he's that. So all of the other shit, everything that you're gonna see, everything that these guys are gonna tell you about attempted assassination, about the guy, where he came from, he was a liberal, he was a Democrat, all of that. Ask the question, why was JD Vance evacuated 14 seconds before the president of the United States? That's the big question for me. So I named some of the names earlier. We're going to go with Sergeant Benjamin Pennington. Injury sustained March 1st in Saudi Arabia. And then the crew of the KC 139, you had Major John Kilner, Captain Ariana Savino. Technical Sergeant Ashley Pruitt, again, Koval, Angst, and Simmons. Major Jeffrey O'Brien, the one that died in Kuwait from the 1959 F5. Chief Warrant Officer Robert Marzon, Captain Cody Cork, Sergeant First Class Nakor Amor, Sergeant First Class Noah Tegens. I wonder if that's any relations to my friend John Tegens I was in Navy with. Sergeant Declan Cody, 20 years old. So we're just going to pay tribute to them tonight again. That's what we're going to do. We're going to pay some tribute to them tonight. So thank you all for tuning in to the Radical Republicans live show. Again, tonight. I might be here next week. I may not, but thank y'all for tuning in. If I'm not, you guys know where to find me. So thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Joe, over there in YouTube and Rumbleland. And thank you, Jamie, K9 Girl, Pure Blood. I appreciate you all coming in. No, it's a little lax over there. I ran off a big crowd over there in Getter because a lot of the Getter, they follow Bannon in their MAGA supporters to the death, I guess, or MAGA supporters to the Kool-Aid. But I thank y'all for hanging with me and hanging out and understanding that, hey, It is what it is. We all have our opinions. I have mine. You have yours, and we're just gonna do it the right way. We're just gonna do it the right way. So, I love y'all. Y'all take care. And this is to those fallen soldiers that nobody's talking about anymore. Love y'all. Talk to y'all later. Peace.